The temperature was in the mid-90s in Florence, Italy, as I made my way through the narrow streets. I was on a mission to pay tribute to Galileo, the father of modern science, at his final resting place. Join me on this pilgrimage to the Basilica of Santa Croce in Florence, where Galileo rests among some of the greatest minds to ever walk the earth. Walk to the Basilica of Santa Croce. I started my walk from the heart of Florence, just a few steps from the Duomo, that iconic terracotta dome towering over the city like a crown. I passed by the Galleria dell'Accademia. And yep, there he is, a replica of Michelangelo's David, standing proudly outside, still turning heads. From there, I headed toward the Uffizi Gallery. If you look up at the facade, you will spot a full-figure statue of Galileo, part of a row of Tuscan legends carved into stone. Just a few feet away is the Museo Galileo. Several of Galileo's original scientific instruments have been carefully preserved here. One can feel the spark of discovery in Museo Galileo. And finally, I stepped into the wide, sun-drenched square of Piazza Santa Croce. The energy shifted. It was calm, sacred. And there it was, at the far end, the Basilica, rising with quiet majesty. The Basilica of Santa Croce, known as Florence's Tempio dell'Italian Glories, the Temple of Italian Glories. Here lies Galileo Galilei in his long-awaited place of honor. Basilica Santa Croce. Right outside the basilica stands a towering statue of Dante Alighieri, the poet Florence exiled and never brought home. Even in stone, he seems to watch over the city that once turned its back on him. The Basilica of Santa Croce dates all the way back to 1294, and it was officially consecrated in 1444. But for more than 300 years, its facade remained unfinished until the 1850s, when Niccolò Matas, a neo-Gothic architect and professor at Florence's Academy of Fine Arts, designed the elegant front we see today. If we look up at the facade, we see a Star of David at its center. Matas wove it into the design, a quiet signature. He wished to be buried with the others inside, but due to his Jewish faith, was buried outside, beneath the church's threshold. As I stepped inside, the beauty of the basilica took my breath away. Frescoes, sculptures, candles. But even more powerful than the beauty was who is laid to rest here. Galileo Galilei, Michelangelo Buonarroti, Niccolò Machiavelli, Gioacchino Rossini, Guglielmo Marconi, Ugo Foscolo, to name a few. One after another, resting beneath intricately carved tombs and timeless tributes. But Santa Croce doesn't only hold remains. It holds memory. Some who are honored here were never actually buried here. Like Dante, who died in exile and is buried in Ravenna, Florence built a majestic cenotaph here in his honor as a symbol of reconciliation, and the inscription reads, Honorate Latissimo Poeta, honor the highest poet. There's also a memorial plaque for Enrico Fermi, the father of nuclear physics. His remains lie in Chicago. And Rossini, composer of the opera the barber of Seville, was originally buried in Paris. His remains were transferred here decades later, but his tomb stood waiting long before. Tucked quietly near the entrance, easy to miss, is a beautiful tribute to Florence Nightingale, holding her iconic lamp. She was born in Florence, though buried in England, but her legacy is eternal. The woman who revolutionized modern nursing. And along the wall near the entrance is a commemorative plaque honoring Leonardo da Vinci, the Renaissance genius, whose innovations shaped both science and art. Though he was buried in France, Florence honors him here. And then there are those whose bones truly rest beneath the stone, like Marconi, the Nobel Prize-winning physicist who invented the radio, honored here where Italy gathers its brightest. Foscolo, the fiery poet, who once dreamed of a national pantheon, now part of it, brought back to Florence after dying in exile, he rests among the very legends he celebrated. And Machiavelli, the political thinker whose ideas still stir debate, lies beneath the tomb that declares, "No praise is equal to such a name." Tucked along the central aisle of Santa Croce lies Michelangelo, buried just days after Galileo was born. His tomb, designed by Giorgio Vasari, a Florentine painter, architect, and writer, is surrounded by three grieving figures: painting, sculpture, and architecture, the very arts he helped redefine. Galileo's tomb. Just opposite Michelangelo's tomb lies the final resting place of Galileo. But Galileo's journey to this final resting place was anything but easy. When he died in 1642, he was still under house arrest, punished by the Catholic Church for standing by Copernicus's bold idea that the earth moves around the sun. Back then, that was considered heresy. Even though his family had a tomb right here in Santa Croce, they were worried. The Inquisition, the Church's powerful system for dealing with heresy, might forbid Galileo's burial in sacred ground. So instead, they laid him to rest in a small room near the Novitiate Chapel, just outside the main part of the Basilica. No monument, no public recognition for the man we now call the father of modern science. Grand Duke Ferdinand II de' Medici had wanted to build a proper tomb in Galileo's honor, but Pope Urban VIII blocked the plan, claiming Galileo had caused universal outrage to Christianity. However, Vincenzo Viviani, Galileo's most devoted student, waged a quiet battle to preserve his teacher's writings, to clear his name, and to see him laid to rest with the honor long denied to him. When Viviani died in 1703, he left money in his will to finally give Galileo the memorial he deserved and to be buried alongside him. Viviani's own student, architect Giovanni Battista Nelli, also contributed funds to the effort, helping bring the tomb project to life. Finally, in 1737, nearly 95 years after Galileo's death, his remains were disinterred and moved to this magnificent tomb. But there was a surprise. Inside the tomb, the remains of a woman were also uncovered by the exhumation team. Many believe it was Sister Maria Celeste, Galileo's daughter and closest companion, who had died much earlier in 1634. Now Galileo, his daughter Sister Maria Celeste, and his student Vincenzo Viviani all rest beneath one of the most beautiful tombs in Santa Croce. This stunning monument was designed by one of Florence's finest sculptors, Giovanni Battista Fuggini, and completed by his son Giulio. They weren't alone. Two more artists joined them, Vincenzo Fuggini and Girolamo Ticciati. Right at the center is a marble bust of Galileo, telescope in hand, a symbol of the instrument that redefined our place in the universe. On either side of Galileo's tomb are two statues. Astronomy crafted by Fuggini holding a parchment with sunspots, and geometry, work of Ticciati, showing a tilted plank to represent falling bodies. Beneath the bust, a crust shows Jupiter and its moons, the Medici planets, which Galileo discovered with his telescope. And across the tomb, a Latin inscription by Simone di Bendo Peruzzi tells the world, "This man saw truth in the stars and dared to say it out loud." When Galileo's remains were finally moved in 1737 to this magnificent tomb, some of his admirers couldn't resist taking keepsakes. They removed a tooth, a vertebra, one of his thumbs, and his middle finger. Today, the finger rests in a glass jar at the Museo Galileo. And on August 2, 1823, the University of Padua, where Galileo once taught, officially received his fifth lumbar vertebra as a gift from Domenico Tien, a physician from Vicenza. That bone had been taken during the 1737 transfer and passed through many hands before finally returning to one of Galileo's intellectual homes. Santa Croce is Florence's pantheon, honoring the minds that shaped Italy's art, science, and soul. Some rest here, others are remembered. All left a lasting echo. Three centuries later, the Church concedes Galileo was right. It wasn't until 1992, more than 350 years after Galileo's trial, that the Catholic Church officially admitted it had been wrong. On October 31, 1992, Pope John Paul II called Galileo's condemnation a tragic misunderstanding and acknowledged it as a moment when dogma had silenced discovery. As the Los Angeles Times put it the next day, it's official. The earth revolves around the sun, even for the Vatican. Galileo's voice was almost lost to history. But truth, though suppressed, always finds its way. A quiet tribute, Candlelight and Remembrance at Santa Croce. As I stood there, I was overwhelmed. Nothing could have prepared me for what I found and experienced. It wasn't just Galileo. It was Florence's entire intellectual soul gathered here, finally at rest. To stand in this basilica is to feel the weight of truth, its cost, and its enduring legacy. I lit candles for both Galileo and Michelangelo and paid tribute to their contributions to humanity. And here in Santa Croce, their legacy glows softly through the marble, the candlelight, and in the quiet memory of time. Please subscribe, like, and share for more science stories. Happy learning. Thank you.